pleased to have join us now Mahmud Ali Durrani, who is Pakistan's ambassador to the U.S. Mr. Ambassador, this morning in the Washington Post, the lead editorial, A Problem of Passivity, talking about that Pakistan, essentially this says that Pakistan is allowing al-Qaeda to regroup and resurge within the borders of Pakistan. How do you respond to that, sir?
Well, I don't blame the Washington Post, but that's the kind of story they have got. But I feel very sad and disappointed that that is the feeling that people have here. Because I don't think Pakistan is doing that. They are absolutely doing their very best, and their record, if you see the performance what we've done in the past months and years, we've been upfront, totally committed. Yes, there are some problems, but I think where everybody forgets the bigger picture, you have to resolve Afghanistan. And complaining and pointing fingers at Pakistan is not going to help you unless you sort it out. And I think I would quote your president, Mr. Bush, in his recent statement. He gave out 5 goals for Afghanistan, and I think if you meet those, your problem is over. Pakistan, there is some problem, but if I could put it in percentages, the problem may be 5 to 10% in Pakistan, 90% is in Afghanistan. The whole place is open. You know, you have 40,000 troops roughly there in the whole of country, and we have about 80,000 troops in a little part. If this table were Afghanistan, then North Waziristan is about this much, a bit.
Waziristan.
Waziristan.
It's a small bit. In the north part of Pakistan?
It's in the north part of Pakistan, but it's just a bit. And if this is causing all the trouble, then block it. I mean, the border is a two-sided affair. So I think it's grossly unfair, the way Pakistan is being treated nowadays.
And in the New York Times on Sunday and in the Washington Post today, this is a common
yes.
Let me just read one sentence. The camps have operated unhindered since at least September, when Pakistan's military ruler Pervez Musharraf agreed to a separate peace deal with local Taliban leaders. Has that deal been effective in your view?
I think it has been effective about 60–70%. It is not a 100% effective deal. This is the deals that have been carried out with tribals over the years and centuries. And I think eventually the US and Afghanistan will have to do the same thing in Afghanistan. Just using a sledgehammer doesn't work, because there are a lot of people who are not terrorists. You have to wean them away from the terrorist crowd. And this is one of the ways, giving them a political future, giving them an economic future, so that you take them away from the bad guys. So I think this is what we are doing. And we have now separated. Normal life is resumed there. Our agent, the political agent, can move around freely. Schools have started. The bazaars are open. So this can, you can filter out the bad guys, like pulling out the bad fish out of a pond. So I think we are doing it. After the deal, we have twice struck training camps. And I must say, with your help, with your intelligence and cooperation with the USA, we have taken out 2 training camps, which they were in small places.
Recently?
Yes, in the last, I think, a month and a half or so, much after the peace agreement. So we are there. We are committed, totally committed, because we are fighting for our soul. It is not just that we want to help America and Afghanistan, but it is a matter of our life and death, as far as I'm concerned. That we want a liberal Islamic state at peace with itself and with peace with the rest of the world. So this doesn't fit in. This doesn't fit into our economic agenda either, because we want Afghanistan at peace, so that Pakistan touts of being an energy hub, business and trade hub, so that we can connect the world with Central Asia. We can only do that if Afghanistan is at peace. So that is in our total and absolute national interest. I think all these things like, Pakistan is deliberately doing that, that is wrong. Yes, it's a very treacherous border. It is a difficult border. And things are happening in spite of us, not because of us.
Is there an estimate of how many training camps al-Qaeda has in Pakistan right now?
I don't think that we know of any camps. The ones we know, we take them out. And whenever the US or somebody, through satellite, you have better imagery, better intelligence, you point it out, we go and get it. There is no question of training camps being there. we knowledgeable about them and we let them go. Not at all, sir. We don't do that.
Our guest is Pakistan's ambassador to the U.S., Mahmud Ali Durrani. We're talking about Pakistan's role in the war on terror. Numbers are on the screen. Please allow 30 days between your calls. The first call up for the ambassador is from Forestville, Maryland, Democrat. Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Ambassador. The administration right now is playing the blame game. They're blaming Pakistan for the resurgence of the Taliban in Afghanistan. They are blaming Syria and Iran for the problems they're having in Iraq. If George Bush had kept the 140,000 troops we have in Iraq today in Afghanistan, we would have defeated the Taliban and we would have rebuilt that country by now, and we wouldn't be having the problem, it wouldn't be in the mess that we are in right now. Thank you.
Mr. Ambassador.
Ma'am, I couldn't agree with you more, and I agree with you. In fact, I would take the liberty of saying that if you had not gone into Iraq, Afghanistan would have been resolved by today. And I agree with you, blaming each other is not the way out. We have to get our act together. We all have to work together as friends, and I think what we need is greater coordination and understanding between everybody.
Phoenix, Republican. Go ahead.
This is just a comment, and I would like the ambassador's response. You know, I believe that a lot of the hatred towards America in the Muslim world is because of our abortion law here and our homosexuality lenient laws. And I just, I think when a Muslim sees that, they see pictures of men kissing or women kissing, it kind of gives a different picture of America. That
are those some of the reasons? Do Arab countries care about those issues?
Maybe, but I don't think they are the main reason. The main reason, sir, the caller I'm talking to addressing, the main reason is that, let me go back to the 50s. In the 50s, the U.S. was considered a very fair power. Unfortunately, today the world, or at least the Islamic world, does not see America as a fair power. Rightly or wrongly, this is a perception. And probably this is something to do with the Arab-Palestinian and the Israeli conflict, and it's got something to do with Iraq. So why they went into Iraq, the reasons they gave, and even now the public. So, I don't want to say more than that, but those are some of the reasons. That's the fundamental reason, I think.
What percentage of the people of Pakistan approve of U.S. policy or approve of the United States, think favorably?
Oh, I don't think it's very high. And that's not just Pakistan, I think it is across the board.
Right. David Ignatius writes about it this morning in the Washington Post. What percentage of the, would you contribute, the Iraq War, how big of a part of that is that?
I mean, I will be guesstimating, as they say. I think about 30-40%. Because, the people there feel that you went into Iraq not for the reason that you gave. They were other ulterior motives, rightly or wrongly. That's not the point. But this is a perception, as there is an unfortunate perception here that Pakistan is encouraging this. This is a perception. I call it a misperception, but
Should the U.S. change its policy in Afghanistan?
No, I think what the president has announced, now I love that. Because what you need to do is get rid of corruption, improve governance, put in a lot of money, improve their security, pump in more forces. So that, we've been saying that. Our president is on record. He says that you have to have a kind of a mini Marshall Plan for Afghanistan. And you have to put in more forces. The amount of people that you have is insufficient. As I said, in total Afghanistan, you have about 40,000 troops. And in just a small bit of Pakistan, we have 80,000. Now, recently, I'm sure you've read in the paper too, I read in the paper, that 2 districts were taken over by Taliban. Now, what's that got to do with Pakistan? Why have 2 districts? And of course, they were evicted finally, but there are so many Taliban there to do it. So I think the blame game is unnecessary.
Next call for Ambassador Durrani comes from Lazelle, Quebec. Go ahead.
Yes, I think the major problem with Pakistan is the fact that Howard Stern.
Colorado Springs, Colorado. Good morning.
Hello. I'm so pleased to talk to you. I do notice as an American that we're used to different dialects, and when you speak, you sound like you're from India. And I don't understand how Pakistan and India are in such a war with each other when India is a large Muslim country. And I don't understand the Kashmir conflict. And I do want to ask why Pakistan has not gone after Osama bin Laden. Thank you.
Ma'am, that was a very long question. A couple of questions. I'll answer the last one first. Ma'am, Osama bin Laden was trained, he worked in Afghanistan, he created Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. He never came to Pakistan. He may have transited through Pakistan at some time, but he was never in Pakistan. He's not in Pakistan. If he comes to Pakistan, and we know, there's a possibility we may not. If we know, we'll get him. We want that head money. I wish I could get him.
And what
on
about the India issue?
Pakistan, ma'am, you're right. When I speak, it sounds like an Indian because Indians and Pakistanis have so much in common. Racially, we're the same people. We speak the same language. We eat the same food, and we even have common jokes. But there have been some territorial disputes, and the way we, after the British went, the two countries were created, there was a lot of bloodletting. And unfortunately, that created a lot of bad blood. But right now, to tell you, the good news is that our relations with India are improving, and I do not think we'll have another war with them. And this is one of the areas that I really work on, that is peace between India and Pakistan.
Has anyone taken credit, or has anyone claimed credit for the train bombing that occurred?
No, I think, that's another thing. It's a very sad thing, very unfortunate. And I'm sure you know that most of the people who were killed were Pakistanis. But the good news is that Pakistan and India have more or less got together on this against the terrorists. This is wonderful. I think this is great news. And this is bringing us together. A bad event is bringing the two leaderships together.
And the fact that the train was traveling from India to Pakistan,
yes,
correct?
Yes, it was in India, far from the border yet. But it is what we call Samjhota Express or a Peace Express. And it's been going on, and it's very sad, and we condemn the people who have done it, and Pakistan and India hopefully will join hands in this investigation and catch the bad guys.
Mr. Ambassador, what is the earthquake still an issue? What's the recovery like?
Yeah, earthquake is an issue that, the area size of Belgium was devastated, absolutely devastated. I visited that area, and one of the larger cities was absolutely flattened completely. It was a horrible sight. Except one building, it was flattened. Now we have gone into overdrive. The reconstruction effort is on. We have a very good agency formed to do that, and a lot of work has been done. But I think the overall reconstruction will go on for a couple of years. But what has happened is that none of the people have died out of starvation or illness. All are not in permanent homes yet. They are in temporary shelters. But we've gone through, by the grace of God, through the second winter. And we've overcome that. We are building the infrastructure. We are building the education infrastructure, the telecom infrastructure, and we are helping the people build their own homes. We are supporting that.
Was the international support that you got sufficient?
Outstanding. And the first support that we got was from no other than the United States of America. In fact, in the beginning, what we needed worst was our capability to get there and get people out of there. And luckily, you had Chinooks in Afghanistan, and I think they flew into Pakistan, and they were called Angels of Mercy in Pakistan. Chinook now is a name that every little boy in the earthquake area knows, because when he sees the twin props, he remembers that, and I think they were great blessings. But in all fairness, everybody provided support, and even children from the United States, school children, they contributed. We had a small event to celebrate that this year.
Next call for Pakistan's ambassador to the U.S. comes from Godfrey, Illinois.
Hey, good morning, Ambassador. Salaam alaikum. I just want to ask, I noticed on the map the area of Baluchistan, which is below Afghanistan, is near Kandahar, which seems to be a center for Al-Qaeda activity and popularity. Is there any information or any knowledge that people from that area of Pakistan, from Baluchistan, are going up into Afghanistan to aid Al-Qaeda?
Thank you, Mr. Godfrey, and walaikum assalam. What has happened is that in Baluchistan, we have a number of Afghan refugee camps. And one of them is right sitting on top of the capital of Baluchistan, which is Quetta. In my assessment, I do not think the Baluchis are crossing over into Afghanistan to do damage. It is the Afghans who are here, some of them, not all, some of them who come into these refugee camps, who come into Quetta, they go back and they cause all the damage. We are trying our best to control them now, and we have put in many measures that will help do that.
College Park, Maryland, go ahead.
Yes, hi, good morning. For the record, I'm half French, half Indian, but I want to congratulate your country for sheltering bin Laden. I mean, after all, if I don't miss anything here, if our soldiers, American soldiers, cannot go into Pakistan, yet, bin Laden and other Al-Qaeda and Taliban people are located over there, then clearly, effectively speaking, in the end of the day, you guys are protecting them. That's my first point. And I'd like to answer the question from the lady earlier about Pakistan and India being so similar. Let's look at the record here. Pakistan and Bangladesh were carved out of India, out of Islamic separatism. If that sounds familiar, of course, because that's a common theme recurring with Islam. And, of course, they've done an excellent job in the last 50, 60 years to purge and exterminate all Hindus and whatnot, Buddhists, from Pakistan and Bangladesh, while, of course, the cow worshippers were allowing the Muslims to fester inside India. And we see the results, and it's only going to end with a nuclear annihilation. Thank you.
Sir, I think you're over pessimistic. I don't think that is totally correct. We were created as independent nations. It's true, not enough time to go into the history of that, but nobody has been exterminated in Pakistan. When Pakistan was founded, our founding fathers said, this is a country where everybody is equal, irrespective of which creed he comes from, which religion he comes from, which race he comes from. Nobody has been exterminated, but there were differences, and I don't think we will go into a nuclear war. I'm quite confident. You rest assured, you will have some Indian blood in you, and good for that. But we are for peace with India, and India also wants peace with us, and I think we will achieve that. We are already halfway there. Thank you.
Mr. Ambassador, what do you think about the UN and its position on Iran?
UN and its position on Iran?
Right,
or,
right. The Iranian issue. The Iranian issue.
Well, the Iranian issue is unfortunate, and I think the only way to resolve it, again, is dialogue. And I think you've done that in North Korea. And I think, again, a sledgehammer approach is not the best. Sometimes, a major military power, it uses the instrument which it has. So I think sometimes you need to step down from that. And negotiations, I think, are a good way. And I think enough pressure was applied on North Korea, and they have agreed to many things. And I think similarly with Iran, you will be able to achieve much by engaging them.
Should Iran be allowed to develop nuclear energy and potentially a nuclear weapon?
Nuclear energy, I think everybody has a right. I don't think it should be anybody's specific right that so and so can have nuclear energy and so can't. I think the Iranians have said that they don't want a nuclear weapon, and I think we should make sure, or the international community, International Atomic Energy Commission, that they should live up to that.
Ambassador Ali Durrani served as Pakistan's defense and military attaché in Washington for several years, was also military secretary to the Pakistan president from 1983 to 1986. Sir, which president was that?
Ziaul Haq.
Next call comes from Houston, Texas. Go ahead.
Hello. My name is Farhat Naeem. I'm from Houston. I'm a Democrat. I would like to ask, he's my ambassador from Pakistan. I would like to know, if I am asked as a layman what Pakistan is doing about the war on terrorism, and which is basically Iraq, how would I answer the question?
Ma'am, you've asked me what is Pakistan doing against the war on terror. We are doing a lot. We have long-term programs, we have medium-term programs, we have short-term programs. The short-term program has been the blunt end of the stick. We have used it wherever necessary. We have killed terrorists, we have captured them, we have jailed them. On the other issues, we are increasing the funding for education. We are trying to remove poverty. We are trying to remove deprivation. We are putting more funds in the northern areas and in the frontier regions and in Balochistan. So we are trying to give the people another reason to live rather than be terrorists. We are trying to wean away the public from the terrorists, and we are trying to defeat the terrorists. We have a lot of madrasas in Pakistan which went into overdrive during the last Afghan war, if I may call it, when we defeated the Soviets. We are trying to check them also. We are trying to, we have banned all the madrasas which were in terrorism, but besides that, we are trying to improve the syllabi of the madrasas too. There are about 1,400 madrasas. We have registered about 10, 11,000, 14,000 they were, and we've registered about 10, 11,000, and we are changing their syllabus. So we are, ma'am, we are doing a lot of things to, because Pakistan wants to live the way it was created by its founding father Quaid-e-Azam, and we want to go back to his vision, which is a country at peace with itself and at peace with the world. We don't want to be a model of the Taliban, Afghanistan, or any other radical Islamic state. We want to be an open, liberal state, Islamic, yes, but at peace with ourselves and with peace with the rest of the world.
Mr. Ambassador, do you feel that you have good access to Condoleezza Rice in the State Department?
Yes, we have good access to them.
Next call, Columbia, South Carolina. Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Ambassador. How are you?
Thank you, sir. I'm fine.
Wanted to make two quick comments and get your response. I think if Israel never existed in the Middle East, I still think you'd have problems between the Arab nations. And I don't think that Israel is to blame for that. I still think you'd have Sunni killing Shiite, Shiite killing Sunni. And secondly, you know, I think the problem with the Middle East is that 80% of the good people like you don't really keep track of the 20% of the bad people.
Mr. Ambassador.
I agree with you. I did not say that Israel is creating the problem. I had said that the policy that the U.S. was following in the Middle East vis-a-vis Israel and the Palestinian, that is, as I said, perceived as an issue, because the feeling in the Muslim world is that the U.S. was sometimes not fair and it was leaning towards Israel more than it should. I mean, this is a perception, unfortunately, and you be the judge if it is right or not. I leave that to you.
Last call for Ambassador Ali Durrani comes from Prairie Grove, Arkansas.
Well, hello.
Hello, sir.
You're on the air.
Hello, Mr. Ambassador. At what point will the Muslim community finally stand up and say enough is enough? All I see is every time they stand up and say anything, it's for a radical organization or something. Even here at home in the United States, the Muslim community remains quiet. I can't help but think that at the end of the day, that deep down you all believe the same thing. Kill the infidels. Could you answer that? I'll listen now. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Very good question. I think you are right. The Muslim community needs to stand up. We need to get our act together, and we need to condemn the radicals in our society. Islam is, believe me, not a radical religion. I've studied it. I am a Muslim, and most of the, I think, overwhelming majority of Muslims do not believe in radicalism. It is a distortion of Islam, but I agree with you. We need to stand up and tell the world that, you know, this is bad. Some people are doing it, but I agree with you that the Muslim world needs to get together and take the right course.
Mr. Ambassador, the outgoing U.S. NATO commander, General Eikenberry, says that direct attacks are needed on the camps in Pakistan. Would your government support that?
Yes and no. The government is carrying out direct attacks whenever it gets information, so direct attacks by Pakistan supported. Direct attacks by anybody else not supported. You don't have enough troops to sort out Afghanistan. And how can you even look at Pakistan? I think we are better equipped, we have more soldiers, and I think there is no sense. Why don't you also listen to the outgoing NATO commander in Afghanistan, Mr. Richardson? He says Pakistan has done a great job. The terrorists who come across the Durand line have reduced. he is one who is supporting an agreement with the local people to drive out the bad guys. In fact, President Karzai also discussed it with a meeting with the President Musharraf and President Bush here, that we need to use the tribal leaders to drive out the bad guys. So I think we are doing that. We all need to do that, and I think someday in Afghanistan you'll need to do that too. And I think you listen to General Lakenbury, but listen to others too, and listen to us too, because we have something to say, and have an open mind.
Mahmud Ali Durrani is Pakistan's ambassador to the U.S. Thank you, sir, for your time.
Thank you very much. My pleasure being here.
We have an hour.